Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jumoke Dada, and I'm the founder of Taeillo. Taeillo is an e-commerce furniture and lifestyle brand based in Lagos, Nigeria, and Nairobi, Kenya. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, everyone, for having me. It feels strange because, I haven't really seen like black people on the streets, yeah, and it's kind of so exciting, Clap. And it's really kind of so exciting to have like you guys, welcome me warmly. Sometimes I'm on the street during our tour and someone will be, oh, can my son take a picture with you? And all of those things. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I've been a strong advocate for Armenia since I got to know that I'll be coming for this conference. Luckily, most of the people that I admire, like Alexis Owanian and some of these people are like from here. So like, having to come here and get to be here in person is really exciting. It's kind of weird, because some months back, I think in December, I was, funny enough, watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and I saw Kim come to Armenia to talk about the Armenian genocide. And I was watching on TV and I was like, oh, I wish like maybe one day I might come to Armenia to and inspire girls the way she's inspired girls. And yeah, I am like 4 months after. So thank you for the organizers for having me. So today, just like, some years back when I was privileged to attend a conference, it was at the conference I kind of heard, some Japanese, American designers come to Africa. And sorry. How does this work? Okay. Yeah. Excuse me, sorry. So I had like this, like American and Japanese, speakers come to Africa that time. And one thing they said was, Africans are consumers, right? And for me, it was a big slap to my face because why will people come from the West, come to Africa and say in front of everyone, just like everyone is seated here, and say stuff like, we're consumers. To me, it felt like I was useless, right? And at that time, I was still a teenager. And by the time I got back to my office then, I told the managing director, luckily, she's a woman, told her I wanted to, just quit my job at that time and travel around Africa, see the resources that we have, see how we can leverage those resources, to create beautiful things. Because for me, it was really around, I really want to make Africa proud. I really wanted the world to see the good in Africa. And for me, I'm a female, right? I'm a teenager. And the expectation of my parents was like, Jumoke, you need to get a job. But for me, all the times I was like working at the firm at that point in time, every break time, I would go to the bathroom. We had a very huge mirror. Stand in front of the mirror, I would cry and feel like, man, I don't belong to this place. Because the way organizations are structured, you have to follow processes and systems. I wasn't like that, I wanted to create my own path. I wanted to create my own destiny. And that takes me to what I'll say. It's very important for women and for us, to create our own, It's very important for us as women to kind of create our own seats at the table. For me, in Africa, patriarchy is quite strong. The place of a woman is known to be in the home. So you are either trained and groomed, to cook in the kitchen and wait for your husband to come and adore him. Having to work as a business leader is kind of something you are not expected to do because it's not your place. And in my journey in trying to create a place where a lot of people can get to know about Africa and be proud of Africa, I decided, if nobody is going to listen to me, if nobody is going to allow me to do this, if my parents insist that I have to get a job, then I'm just going to go ahead and do what I need to do. And basically, that was how I started my journey. And from there, it got me from a point where I used my school fees in grad school. It was not a good experience, to be honest, because my mom screamed the hell out of me, right? So I took my school fees from grad school from zero capital into building what today Taeillo is, a multi-million-dollar furniture brand that's raised millions of dollars from investors. I would say that wouldn't have been possible if, I didn't decide to stand up, take up the challenge, and go ahead and do what I need to do. And that's me talking to someone here today. Our parents know what's best for us, right? For me, my dad wanted me to, so I studied architecture. My dad wanted me to be an architect. By 20, I was done with my BSc. By 22, I was done with my master's. Then go to Germany to do PhD construction and stuff like that by 24. Come back, be a chartered architect, and get married. It was a good plan. But to be honest, the reality with all those plans is that at the end of the day, it limits us as women. It limits even sometimes children to be able to achieve their potential as much as what they can be. And that leads me to the next thing, which is the place of identity. For me, when my parents were making all of those plans, it sounded great, but I was lost in my own identity. I didn't know who I was as a person. I didn't know I had the power to create something that would get thousands of people to use it. It's not enough that, in a way or the other, we create our own seat at the table, but it's also very important to know that we're part of the conversations. In as much as I can, because I'm a creative, right? I'd rather want to design, sit in my own private space. By default, I don't want to talk to anyone. That's just the truth. But I've come to realize that my voice is really powerful. Before, I didn't really want to grant interviews because, I don't want people to hear about me, I'm so shy, what would people think, what would these guys think? Sometimes I've had to go for meetings, and because I'm small, and I walk into a space, and, they're like, sorry, is your boss still coming? I'm like, no, I'm the boss. Yeah, or you get to hear things like, are you sure who is really sponsoring you? And I'm like, no, nobody sponsored me, I've had to build this from scratch. All of those things, I realized that my voice is really very important and I can get to inspire a lot of girls. So it kind of got me to a point whereby I'm now confident in sharing my own stories, like being here for instance, and letting all other people know that, it's very important for us to, lend our voice, let people know that it's important for women, to get to that point whereby they can express themselves, they can share their own stories, they can show to the world that it's very possible, because Africa is a very tough place to do business, right? I come from a country of over 200 million people, so what that means is that you really need to fight for resources to get them. And for me, having to lead a company, because I have almost 100 employees, it's really kind of tough to be able to do that. And, using myself as an example to a lot of young girls, I've had, little girls come to me to say, I feel so bad because, I told my parents that I wanted to be this, and, they had to literally shut me down. And I'm like, do you really want to listen to them? I don't think so, because your voice is strong enough to do whatever you need to do. And I think that's just my charge to, many young girls here. I know it's always the story of girls should be limited. I think I would like to share a story of the process when we're currently fundraising. So Taeillo was fundraising. I think at that time we're raising about $2.5 million. And we had our lead investor. And by the time, they've been investing in companies, right? But I'm the first solo female founder in quotes, because sometimes they would say, they fund female founders. But, most of this funding that is done to female founders, they would rather say, okay, there's a female co-founder, there's still a male, so it's still safe. But for me, I'm a solo female founder, right? Worst thing, I'm black. Worst thing, I'm small and tiny and petite. And the chairman of the investment committee was like, I don't feel comfortable investing in this business because I'm not sure, I don't feel comfortable investing in this business because I'm not sure she'll be able to deliver. And, even when we raised our first seed round, the story was the same, because it was more or less like, she looks too weak, she can't do it. And from our first seed investment, it got, what the man said to me that time really pissed me off, to be honest. And I really like it when people piss me off because it really challenges me to be better. It got me moving from we making less than $100,000 in revenue then to in less than 24 months making millions of dollars in revenue. Because then I had the courage to say, you know what, you looked down on me at that time, but this is now me doing it. And I think it's constantly my story of give me little, then I'll multiply it into something big. And I think women are so particularly good at doing that because you realize that most of companies that are led by women, you realize that they achieve so much successes with little, right? And for me, it's really important that, I get to share all of these stories and get to let a lot of women know that even though you are being looked down on, even though people tell you that you can't do it, rather than it discouraging you and making you feel like you are not good enough or you are not worth it, I think it should rather charge you into challenging yourself to say, you know what, you told me I can't, but now here I'm doing it. Now, Maya Angelou said, each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all other women. And I think the reason why I'm here today is because a woman once challenged me. I worked as an intern for her during a period of 8 months, and she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And because she has walked through that path, she understands what it feels like for a young girl to be looked down on. And she would tell me, Jumoke, you really go far. Then I didn't really understand what she said or what she meant. But she would tell me stories of herself, and she would tell me things like, I see a younger version of myself in you. And for me, all those encouragements, the little money she gave me when I was leaving her firm, kind of built that courage in me and helped me to navigate my path. She sent me one text, and I'll forever keep that text in my head. And one thing she said to me was, Jumoke, never lose your enthusiasm. And I think it's my enthusiasm that keeps me going up to this point. And, I would tell someone here to maybe don't lose your enthusiasm, right? And the reason why I can stand on this stage is because some other women, like myself, has walked on stages like this, and they've come out to encourage people like myself. They say female is now, female is future. The truth is, we're tired of saying female is now, female is future. We are not going to wait for the world anymore to give us that opportunity. We would rather create our own opportunities. We won't wait for the world anymore to invite us to tables. We would create our own seats at the table. And even if they don't even get to allow us get through the door, one thing is very important, we'll go as far as building our own tables, right? So it's really very important, to understand our identity as women, because it is really very important. Most times, we women, we kind of lose our identity in what the society wants, in what our parents want. But for me, for you, it's very important you find your identity. And I think I found out through a lot of, point of inflection, research, studying, surrounding myself with people that I want to be like, and also getting a lot of, mentorship and advice, which I feel is very important because I'm standing here today not because I'm an island or because I'm super smart, but because I have lots of mentors who have helped me through the journey, who have helped me understand that it's very important for you to have people who guide you to the process. I don't think I'll be here without them, right? And also it's really important that even people like myself, if I get the opportunity to inspire more women, then it's also important that whoever I get to inspire other people. That's why it's really kind of important, for us to, do that. So in as much as we say female is now, female is future, my charge to women today would be, and even young females that are here is, let's go ahead and swing to action, because it's about time. And we shouldn't let the world decide for us what we need to be. I hope my little speech here, kind of inspires a little girl, just as the way I was inspired some conference back. And maybe when next I come back to Armenia, I might get to, see someone who has really stood up and, decided to make a change. Thank you very much for having me.